these signs that we're going to talk about. If your spouse or your partner, if you're exhibiting them, because that's another part, these articles, good to pull someone in that doesn't want to admit there's something going on with them.
Did you push record?
Thank you so much for tuning into Second Act TV. Today I'm so happy to welcome Rick Higgins back to Second Act, the creator and host of Mastering the Second Half. Rick, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me again, Silka.
Well, you're always fun to have on here. And by the way, I just said, there's something different about you. You shaved off your beard.
I know. I'm indecisive when it comes to facial hair, apparently.
Well, talking about indecisive and making rash decisions, today's topic, it's very, close to both of what we do. We're talking about the second act, second half, whatever, but about making that the best time of your life. And one thing that really a lot of people talk about is this midlife crisis that goes along with this time in our life. And there's something about it that it's always implied, I think, just midlife crisis is implied to be negative. And I ran across this article and I thought this was interesting. I hadn't seen a title like that, but how to tell if your spouse is going through a midlife crisis. And I'm thinking, why do we need to, examine that? And then, some of the advice here, again, I want to have an organic discussion about that. Is this accurate? Is this good advice? So anyway, let's get started. Rick, in your definition, what is a midlife crisis?
Oh, well, there's two parts to that. What is midlife and what is crisis? I'll leave the midlife to other people to decide what that age is. A crisis is, you can almost put in quotation marks. It could be a change. It could be an actual crisis. And I think when you're looking at it in somebody else's eyes, you need to kind of figure out which is which. And I'll give you an example. Most of us reinvent ourselves on a constant basis. The person you establish yourself in your 20s and 30s, well, you're not going to be that person in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. You're always reinventing. So is what your spouse, your partner going through, is it just a larger than normal reinvention? Or is it an actual crisis? And I think some of the ways you can tell is just by the byproducts. Is there depression involved? Is there regret? Is there anger? Is there blame? Obviously, that is a crisis and a problem that you may have to deal with. But if it's just simply life is changing and I want to reinvent myself to live a better version of it, then no, it's not so much a crisis. It's just a midlife change.
Yeah. I think one of, especially as it comes to relationships, that's important is that if these signs that we're going to talk about, if your spouse or your partner, if you're exhibiting them, because that's another part, these articles, good to pull someone in that doesn't want to admit there's something going on with them. But if that's going on, how, can that or cannot affect the relationship either negatively or positively? So let's go here. The first thing they said, I thought this was interesting. Feeling a need for adventure and change is a sign that there might be a midlife crisis.
For me, I take that words as positive, but then again, it might just be me. Like I say, if you're looking to reinvent yourself, or if you suddenly have time on your hands and your life's responsibilities are a little bit less, then maybe you are looking for some adventure, some change, some travel, some whatever. I think, again, you have to figure out what flavor is it. Are you looking for a high risk thing? Are you going to suddenly jump off cliffs? That may not be a good thing, but if you're just looking to travel to Mexico or something, I think you have to really look and understand what the change is. And is it positive or is it negative? Adventure can be very good.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's for the most part that is positive because it's rejuvenating, or wanting to jump into life again. So I don't see that as negative. They didn't totally imply that it was, but to what you just said, the degree to which this goes to, that if it's jumping off a cliff or is it a gradual change to improve yourself. So something to think about. You've already said exhibiting the signs of depression or sadness. Let's just briefly touch on that again.
Yeah, I think that's obviously a big sign that something majorly is wrong, either in your spouse or in yourself. It might signify there's something wrong in their personal life, something wrong in their relationship. Maybe it's an outside influence. Maybe something's happening in the family, something that's you may not even understand that's driving this depression. Obviously, if it's real depression, you're going to need to get real help, real counseling, some real intervention, perhaps. But yeah, a real change in personality, I think, would surely signal that you're entering crisis mode, especially if the change in personality is towards the negative side.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I want to add to that, if it's, if you're a male and you're exhibiting this in your female spouse partner, it could be menopause too. I mean, there's other things going on than maybe than just an strictly emotional issue. But yeah, it is something to be aware of, because that certainly can pull a relationship apart. You've talked about expressing anger and blame. That kind of goes along with it. Outwardly blaming somebody and not taking responsibility. Is that what you meant?
That is, I sort of picture myself if I was going through a crisis. Is it a welcome crisis to me, or is it not? If it's something is happening inside, if I feel like my life is not where I want it to be, but I think of it in a negative way, I may lash out. I may exhibit anger. I may blame my spouse and say, it's all your fault that I'm feeling this way, and I go have an affair or something. I think you have to understand the emotions behind your feelings. And it's really kind of hard to do if, this whole crisis, this whole issue is causing you to have less communication with your spouse.
Yeah.
It might be harder for you to identify what's going on with them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. And I think one of the reasons that this conversation is important, I tend to bring things back to me. I can't help it. We live what we bring you. For me, I had a lot of this, and I left the marriage. I still think that was the right decision, because sometimes it is just a reevaluation. But had my from a husband maybe be more in tune. I don't know. Maybe that we could have. So maybe it is a good thing that we look for this, but also look within ourselves, because we do tend to blame outward. Waffling on decisions. I thought that was interesting.
You're pretty much kind of describing my life now. And as soon as you mentioned that earlier, I started going, am I having a midlife crisis? And I was trying to understand what that might have been. And I think it may be because if you're suddenly wanting a change or desiring a change, or you have the opportunity for a change, and now you're drinking from a fire hose. Oh my God, there's so many different types of change. What do I pick? And you just can't settle in on something. That strikes me as more of the crisis part of the needing to reevaluate. Now you got to figure out what it is you want to do. What is it that's driving your feelings? And so, yeah, indecisiveness, I would believe, could be a really big one. I'm still working on that.
That would be frustrating in having to put up with it, or even within yourself. I mean, you frustrate yourself, commit to something that, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. That would drive me, it would drive me nuts if I did. I've become to be pretty decisive. So if I was with somebody that wasn't, that would be difficult. So if you are, then maybe there's a lift. I'm not going to call it a crisis. Maybe there's a midlife reevaluation going on, and you need to get on the same page. Well, and then of course you mentioned this, the classic sign, of course, straying from a marriage or a long-term relationship, ending a relationship.
Yeah, I don't see a whole lot of positive sides to that one. If you're actually at the point where you are actively, physically, emotionally abandoning your previous life, yeah, you're having a crisis. There's no way to spin that any other way. And I think that may even have to be a whole different segment of how you deal with that. I would hope that somehow either yourself or you saw it into your spouse, your partner, that you had some kind of intervention or some kind of, you caught it before it got to that point. Because I don't know, once you get to that level, I'm not so sure you can survive that.
I agree. I think once somebody actually strays, I couldn't forgive it. I know that.
No, that's a line.
Yeah. I know there's a lot written about that, how to survive infidelity. To me personally, that would be very difficult. And I think one thing I want to add there too is, if again you're a male and you think something's going on with your wife, but really a woman doesn't even need to stray physically. Straying emotion up here can be even more harmful. So it's definitely important to be on the same page. Anything you want to add on that?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I wish I'd have thrown that word in a little stronger. I actually do believe that emotional straying is probably far more damaging. A physical thing could be, spontaneous. An emotional thing is very long term and I don't know, very disrespectful and insulting in a way as well. It's a higher flavor.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting topics that certainly affect our second half, and again, I think the takeaway for me on this segment is that self-examination is a good thing. But if you are in if it's affecting your relationship, or if you're seeing that whoever it is, whether it's you or whether it's your spouse, then it's definitely time to get on the same page, talk about it, and support each other through it. Any closing words from you, Rick?
I would add one thing, that if you do sort of look at this crisis that's happening and you see that it is maybe something positive, maybe it is a reinvention, an opportunity maybe just to jump on board and go with it. If your partner is indeed, hey, we've got time, the kids are grown, they're all out of the house, I kind of want to reinvent myself, and they throw out some ideas and you're like, yeah, that sounds like fun. I mean, maybe it can be a chance to have a mutual midlife crisis, as long as it's heading in the positive direction.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you're going to go through a midlife reexamination, and that's a good thing. Hopefully it'll be good for your relationship as well. So Rick, thank you. We're going to, of course, link to your channel, to your great videos. Rick has a terrific sense of humor. I love the way that you treat so many topics, in out of the box. You guys will see when you go to his channel that, affect us here in the second half of life. So Rick, thank you, and we'll see you soon again on Second Act TV. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. And if you have a topic that you'd like to have us cover, please visit our website, secondact.tv. We have a little red suggestion box on the upper right-hand corner of the site. Just click on that, send us a line. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.